Now, over the past week, we've been talking about college choices and everything. And basically, what's been happening is that a lot of students have been going through and making their list of 10 to 20 schools that they think that they want to apply to, and going through all the checkpoints, checking out the location, the size, um, admissions criteria, how much it costs to attend. And these are all important factors, when you're putting together your package. What this does is that when it does come time for you to make a decision, you've kind of done all your homework ahead of time and you're not scrambling trying to figure out really what's going on. Now, sometimes you'll have some students, if they do have enough money or they have enough time, they could actually go and visit some of those schools. And I implore students to visit these schools if they can. Sometimes you may be in a country where financially you might not be able to get over there. You know, it's kind of expensive flying to America from the other side of the world. But when you start talking about you might be shelling out up to $60,000 for college tuition a year, a $2,000 plane ticket or $1,000 plane ticket might not be a bad idea to make sure that you're making the right choice. So once again, I mean, these are some other steps that people are doing. Now, what I would do want to talk about is what people consider what their dream college is. Now, granted, there are many universities and colleges in America, and the dream college for Ali might not be the dream college for Muhammad. The dream college for Alia might not be the dream college for Khadijah. So I think it's important to make your little dream list. Like, what are your game breakers? What are your deal breakers here? You want your college near the water? Do you want it in the city? Do you want it in the suburbs? And we talked about that before. So just because a school might be ranked well, maybe a very well ranked school, it might be in a location that you don't like. So for example, if you don't like cold water, not cold water, if you don't like cold weather, I don't know if you want a school that's going to be in the Northeast, like in Boston, those places up there. Or you might not want to have a place that's a college that's in Chicago. Chicago's called the Windy City, and it's called that for a reason. Some of those states in the Midwest can get kind of cold, heavy winters, Montana, Idaho, these places like that. So these are things you want to take in consideration when people are talking about their dream college. Now, a dream college also means that you want to make sure that you're having a dream experience. So we want to make sure that when we're going to these schools, that the whole environment is going to be good for us. Because what happens is that, let's say if you go to a school that's a very good college, but yet you hate where it is, you don't like the people around there, you don't like the weather, that's going to affect your performance in that school. So you want to make sure that these factors that are around you, they're going to affect your performance there. So if you are happy in your personal life and happy, outside the classroom, then you're going to do much better inside the class. Because remember, you're going to have to be at the school for at least 4 years, 4 or 5 years. Now, 4 or 5 years in a place that you don't like, that's a long time. So these are some things that we definitely want to make sure that we're tapping into. So this is what I mean when we start talking about what our dream schools are, okay? Our dream schools. And I tell you, always jot down about 20 to 30 different things that you must have in a location where you study. It's very important as an international student. Something as simple as being able to find food. Maybe find food from your country. Find supermarkets that have international products. Find places of worship, things like that. Maybe you're a Muslim student coming from one of the Muslim countries or any other country, and you want to make sure that maybe that the college is close to a place of worship, it's close to a mosque or a masjid. Maybe you're from a place where you are used to a lot of sun, and you want to make sure that it's sunny. Also, another thing that we want to look at, and we didn't touch into this, but we're going to touch into a bit more. We want to start touching into activities that are available on campus. So let's say, for example, every school has clubs and organizations that you could be a part of. Usually they have about hundreds of them, whether they are, a singing club or a Muslim Student Association or a young political club. A lot of these universities have plenty of these organizations. And it's not a bad idea to contact some of these organizations actually before you come there, because maybe you could start, getting used to what's it going to be like there before you even get there. You connect to some of these clubs, and this is going to help with your personal life and things that's going along. Perhaps you're into sports, but you're not big enough where you want to play on the collegiate level. Most schools have what we call intramural sports, where you're playing just amongst college students that are there. Maybe you want to play basketball or volleyball or even cricket. A lot of these schools have different clubs. Schools may have up to 200, 300 different clubs. And this is showing that, the students are vibrant and they're busy and they're doing things outside the classroom, which is going to enhance their grades. So these are things that we definitely want to make sure that these schools have. What kind of clubs do they have you want to be a part of? Do they have clubs such as, like we said, Young Republicans Club, Muslim Student Association, West Indian Student Association, African American Student Association, African Club, European Club, Chinese Club, all these different clubs that they have where people come together, like-minded people can come together, share ideas, have fun, and, just have a pretty good life. This is especially important for international students because, like we mentioned, you're not home, you're far from home. And there's going to be times that you might not be able to be home for maybe like another year. I remember times being in college with some of our international students, and they weren't able to go home every year because their family used all their money to send them over to America. Or perhaps they were taking summer classes, so by the time the semester was over, they really couldn't afford to fly back home. Had a kid like that from Spain where he wasn't able to come back home. So what happens is that these students have to make sure that they have the correct support and they have the correct things going on for them, so that way they're they're going to feel kind of comfortable. Imagine being outside of your home country for 2 years. So you're definitely going to need some stuff really to keep you busy. All right, so we're going to jot that down as well. Make sure when you're looking at these schools, all you have to do is look at student life. Most websites have a section called student life on it, and then you could go down and you could take a look at all the clubs that are available there. And usually they have they even have like contact numbers and things where you could contact current students that are there. All right, these are very important. Another thing we're going to touch on is when we're looking at living, campus living, where you're going to be living on campus. Now, if you're coming in as a freshman, a first year student, sometimes freshman housing is a little bit different than the upper class housing. Freshman housing may be better, maybe worse. It all depends. So I think that it's important definitely to check out these housing options you have there. Second thing is, are the dorms a place you want to live? I'm gonna be honest, you have some dorms that are single sex dorms, male or female dorms, but then you do have some other dorms which are kind of like have males on one floor, females on another floor, or sometimes even the floor is a bit mixed. Now, if you're coming from a somewhat traditional type background, this may be a bit of a shock to you, but you always want to make sure that you're finding out about your living places, where you're going to be living, how are the dorms going to be, checking out your roommate. If you find out who your roommate is, can you get his contact number and to figure out what's this roommate about? Are you guys going to be compatible? And it's sometimes very proactive, to get as much as you can about this roommate as well. I knew somebody, for example, who before they got a roommate, when they got their roommate, they checked their social media accounts and found out that his roommate was into some stuff that he really wasn't into, and he felt a little bit uncomfortable rooming with them. So he was able to change. Actually, he got a single room. So these are things you do have to be a little bit flexible because, one of the strategies and one of the good things about being an international student is you want to be able to get along with other people, and you're going to meet people from different cultures, different backgrounds. So you can't be so rigid that you expect, to have the dream roommate all the time, but you do want somebody who you're going to be able to be compatible with. So let's say if you guys are going shopping for the room, you may bring the TV, he may bring the refrigerator, you may bring the fan, and he may bring the ironing board. These are things that once you have good roommates, that you'll be able to figure out what's going on. And the better you get along with your roommate, the better your experience is going to be. Now, we have seen certain situations where students can pick out who their roommates are. It's not all the time, but they sometimes can. So I've seen that there have been some universities that, let's say, for example, if you have 5 or 6 or 10 students coming from a certain country, they'll sometimes even try to at least house them together. If not a roommate, at least in the same building. Because that way you're around other people you're comfortable with and you're not feeling like you're by yourself. But on the other end, some schools prefer you not to be with other people from your same culture background because they think that maybe you might not grow and that you'll be kind of like just stuck in that bubble. So I think that, on both ends, it's better to meet somewhere in the middle where definitely you're around people that you're familiar with and, culturally wise, and you guys can share different things. But at the same time, you're intermingling with other students and you're picking up, positive aspects of their culture and just learning how to get along with people. So remember, the college classroom, well, just say college and university itself, you have two different learnings. You have the classroom and what you're learning in the community. And sometimes what you learn in the community is much more valuable in the classroom, but that's a whole nother video. So for example, you're going to learn, personal skills, how to deal with people, how to deal with difficult situations, how to deal with, with roommates. We call them the roommates from hell. How do we deal with, financial aid and things like that? So you definitely want to make sure that, you're up for this experience. And like I mentioned before, and last but not least, I'm always big on students making sure that mentally they're prepared for this trip. Now, does this mean that you have to go out and see a therapist just because you're feeling some little anxiety? No, not that. But it definitely means trying to be in touch with some of your strengths and your weaknesses and some of the things that trigger you. See, once you're in touch and you know what triggers you, what sets you off, what makes you happy, what makes you sad, what are your strengths and your weaknesses, if you're able to pinpoint and identify these things, then when you do get in some trouble and when you do get anxious and when you do get stressed, because guess what? You're in college, it's going to be stressful and it's going to be anxious. You're going to be anxious. There's no way around that. So the bottom line is, how are we going to change this for the better when we do run into these walls? Because it certainly does happen. All right. So we're going to go into this a little bit more in detail, every point we brought forward. But I think, like I said, when you're looking for your dream college, I think everybody's dream college is out there, but you just have to sift through. Remember, there are thousands of universities in America, and one of them has something that definitely you want. So take your time. Start early. And this is why I encourage all international students to start your college search early. That way, you're not last minute scrambling, trying to get stuff done, driving your parents crazy, driving your siblings crazy for no reason. So I would say sometimes as early as middle school. Some parents are already on it. They're saying, look, middle school, they're on their kids about where they're going to go, or at least where they want them to go. So they're starting to get it prepared little by little. Not saying you got to take SATs in 6th grade, but definitely you want to, be ahead and be ahead of the game. It's competition at the end of the game. It's at the end of the day. It's all competition. But it doesn't have to be so competitive because we do have plenty of universities in America. However, remember, the higher grades you get, the higher your score is, and the more mentally prepared you are, the better you're going to do once you get to America to study. So we'll tap in next time and go into this a little bit more in detail.